Well, hello. Hello there, Space Cats, and welcome to the second part of me live stream drawing badgers. I mean, who doesn't love a badger unless you're a farmer? Hello! It is me, Jules. So, thanks for joining me again this afternoon. Those of you who have beady eyes will notice that I'm not in the same room as I was in yesterday, because it's just getting to that time of year now where it's getting a little bit chilly and a bit damp down in my studio. So I've moved everything up into my son's bedroom whilst he's away in at university, and he's very kindly allowed me to use his room as a bit of a makeshift art studio for the time being. So what we did yesterday, if you haven't seen yesterday's live stream, then I was doing the inking for this picture, and you'll see that I've done some up here. That I did this morning. So I did the black ink yesterday, which was in my Tombow Fudenosuke pen. Hi Sharon, lovely to see you. And who else have we got? Hobbies, Kids, Freelancing. Hello to you as well. Well, what do you do? Hobbies, kids and freelancing? Let me know what you do. How are you guys anyway today? I hope you're all okay. So yeah, I was doing that inking yesterday. What my plan is today is to do the watercolour colouring of the picture. The reason why I've done the blue so far is because I want to be able to, it takes a little while for the ink, the watercolour paint to dry, and I don't want it to be just one big muddy mess. So I thought if I do that sort of strip across the middle, then I can work above it and I can work below it without having to get my hairdryer out to blow dry it, because that might just deafen you all, and that would be no good whatsoever. Hi Carolyn, nice to see you. It's really nice actually to be getting back to doing a little bit of live streaming, because I did it all last year. I did one every month through 2021, and just gave myself a bit of a break this year because it is quite an undertaking to sort of make sure that I've got something planned, that I've done my prep for it, and as well as doing Friday videos. However, this week, as I was explaining yesterday, has been quite busy with 3 major projects that I'm currently juggling, so I didn't get around to doing an actual video. So I thought I'd just do a live stream, and then at least something's up on my YouTube channel that hopefully will bring you some joy and you know, something for the weekend. Okay, so I'm going to show you, this is where everything is happening. So there's my camera pointing down, I've got my mug with water in it, and over there's my spray bottle that I spray my paint with. My paint is there. Everything's reversed on this screen, so when I'm pointing and going in the wrong direction, that's because it's in the opposite direction to the way I think it's going to be. So let's have a look at it. There we go. So I shall very carefully now swap round and try not to knock the camera over as I'm doing so. Change glasses, so I've got my reading glasses on. Woo! There we go, knocking the water over as I do it. Okay, so I've got in front of me, I've got my picture that I'm working on, I've got my paints, I've got my 2 fave brushes just here. I've got some kitchen paper, water, and I think we're good to go. So first of all, what I thought I'd show you is the sky, because I really like doing skies. And there is a very particular way of going about it for me, and that is to get some water on my brush. Let's just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a bit more easily. There we go. So got water on my brush, and I'm not going to go over what are the stars, but I'm not going to be too meticulous. I'm going to actually leave some sort of rough squarish outlines to the stars because, well, you'll see why in a minute. So before that dries, I'm actually going to pick up some colour with my other brush, and I've just got here some very dark blue. It's indigo, and then a brighter blue. I'm just going to drop that colour in roughly where, let's just move that across a little bit, roughly where I've put the water, and then the water kind of does its own thing. By the way, if you are writing in the comments, thank you, first of all, it's nice to know you're there, and secondly, when I've done this little bit, I will turn round back to my computer and have a look, see if anyone's written anything that I can respond to. There we go, up as far as that tree, and then I'm just manipulating that ink, that pigment, in to go where I want it to go. And I quite like this kind of like square or rectangular areas around the stars instead of the pigment going right up to it. I like that, so hence the reason why I leave that margin around. I'm just going to do a few of these because these areas are a bit smaller and a bit more delicate, and then I'll do the moon when I've got a moment. So I'll just do these little bits and then I'll turn around and have a look at the comments. So if you've got anything interesting to say about your week or what you've been up to, or saying hello to each other, that's always nice. When I look at live streams, it's really nice to see other people interacting with one another and having a little chat whilst the host is waxing lyrical about something. But if you've got any questions about sort of technical stuff to do with the way I paint or what I'm using or any of that kind of malarkey, then feel free to pop the questions in the comments and I will attend to them at once. Well, in a minute. Now, I don't think I put water in that bit, which is why it's got darker. That's okay, I can lift a bit of that pigment out and borrow it and put it in that one. Okay, there's definitely some water there. And I'm pretty sure I put some water underneath in this one. So the process, I find the process, and this is why it's so good for you if you're feeling stressed, the process of painting, for me, just takes me away from all of my woes and worries, things that are going on during the day, and stuff I don't want to think about. It's so good for you if you are stressed or worried or grieving or anything that's making you not feel like yourself. It's like, I said it before, it is a form of meditation. Okay, I'm going to have a look at the comments. Oh, lots of comments. Okay. Hello, Karen. Nice to see you there. Oh, Sharon, it's so I'm really happy for you to be here too, because you're one of my biggest buddies in this little community that we've got here. So thank you so much for joining. And my good friend who frequently emails me, Antoinette. Hello from Raylan Adams' Discovery Channel. So hi to you. Thank you so much for joining in. Okay, Karen asks, what brand of brushes do you use for watercolour? That's a really good question. Let's have a look. Whatever I can get my hands on, really. Oh no, these are Proline by Pro Art, and art is spelt with an E on the end, A-R-T-E. They're made in the UK. They are synthetic brushes, so, and I prefer to use synthetic really. This one's a Daler Rowney, which I use Daler Rowney quite a lot. I use their paper, but I've got quite a lot of Proline Pro Art brushes. See if I can find another one. No, I can't. But this one is the, see if I can focus camera, focus. You see that has almost completely worn off because I've had this brush for so long. But it does say Proline by Pro Art, and that is about a number 16, I think. So that's quite a big brush. The Daler Rowney one that I showed you, this little chap, is a number 4. Let's see. Aha! Sharon, just lots of home renovating. I'm loving the illustration. What's the creature under the left-handed tree? Well, now there's a question. So you're talking about this little guy here. I haven't quite decided yet. It's hiding. It's hiding in the tree bark, in the trunk. So if you have any suggestions as to what it could be, let me know. I do. If anyone's ever seen any of my books, I always put little eyes peering out from things. And when I do school visits, I go in and I say, I don't know what this is. What do you think it is? And I get responses from, oh, it could be a spider or a mouse or a rabbit, to it's a giraffe or it's a hippopotamus. So, you know, our primary school children have, which is in the UK, is from ages 5 to 9, I think, 9 or 10, maybe a bit older. They have just brilliant imagination, don't they? Oh, if only I was 5 again. Okay, we're going to go in and do the moon. So I'm going to do what I did before, and that is to, by the way, all these little marks along the trees I'm not that bothered about because my tree trunk's going to be quite dark. So I'm more concerned that I don't go too close to my stars and to my moon. And also, I don't really want to get anything on my horizon where the hills are, so I'm going to try very hard not to do that. So when I was at university, doing my course in illustration and graphic design, my lovely friend who really showed me what it was to be a children's book illustrator. He was my first venture into children's book illustration. We were doing a little bit of drawing together, and I drew a moon, and he said, you know what, you ought to put, I drew a moon like this, put a star there. And I said, put a star there? How? What? He said, yeah, put a star there, it'd be good, it'd be nice, you know, nice bit of, it just add to the picture, you know. I said, but the thing is, if there was a star there, it would mean the star was closer to us than the moon, because the moon would be behind it, and that's quite alarming. We really don't want a star closer than the moon. We would be burnt to a crisp. And it was really nice to be able to kind of point something out to somebody who's actually a very intelligent person. Yeah, it was quite nice to be the smarty pants. Okay, I'm going to just grab some just water, and I'm going to go around here. So really, what I'm trying to say is, the whole of the moon is there, it's just we can't see that bit because of the shadow that's there. So that's the reason why my circle around the moon is whole and is not following that crescent shape. Let's try and get these bits. I don't want to spend the whole time just drawing sky, so I'll try and get this done fairly quickly, and then we can move on to the little badgery fellas themselves. So what I want to know is, if you can comment, do you have badgers in your country? I know at the moment they actually look like wombats. Look at them. Oh, we could make them wombats. But you know, if you're in Australia, no, they're not wombats. I don't know if do you get wombats in New Zealand? I don't know. I've been to Australia twice. I haven't ever been to New Zealand, as much as I would love to go. Maybe one day. Okey-dokey. So I think that my intention is, when all this is dried, I might go back in with my Inktense, my Derwent Inktense pencils, which, if you see me do anything in the last year or 18 months, you'll know how much I love those pencils. Flipping amazing they are. Love them. Really lovely, lovely pigment. Not cheap. They're about £3 or £4 a pencil, which is quite a lot of money for one pencil, but they are absolutely lovely to work with. So I do have a little collection now, and I'll probably use one of my yellows to go back into some of these stars just to brighten them up a little bit. So if you drop a bit of water, I'll just show you on this area here. So this is just like a blob of water I've got on my brush. You just get this, it pushes the pigment away and you get this lovely effect, which is what's happened up in that top corner up there. Okay, so you can see that has dried completely now, and it's beginning to dry across there. What I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to work on the bedding of the badgers next. Oh, that's really helpful. On my screen at the moment, I've got a new software update for Java. Skip this version. Why not? Duh. Honestly. Okay, any more questions? Oh, how do you keep the colours so dark? Right. I think the easiest way to explain that is just the quality of the pigment. So if I show you with my tubes of paint, so I use this palette here is Winsor & Newton. It's the Artist Quality set, which I won as a part of a competition that I was doing when I was at university, and I did a poster and I won the competition, and I got a voucher for my local art shop, and I bought the palette with it, otherwise I would never have been able to buy it. And I've just tried to upkeep all of the, when I run out of colours, I try and buy the Artist Quality. So the ones that are not Artist Quality that I do use as well, let's see if I can get that in focus, there we go, Cotman, Winsor & Newton, and Windsor does not have a D in it, by the way, Winsor & Newton Cotman, that's their range that's sort of general use and student quality, that kind of thing. They're much more affordable, whereas, let's have a look, see if I can find, there we go, there's another one, that is also Winsor & Newton, but this is the Artist's Quality. You see on the, let's see if I can get it a bit closer, there we go, Artist's Watercolour. So it just means that it's got this slightly cheaper one. If you've ever used children's watercolour paint, you'll know that it's very hard. If you press it, if you have the little pans like in this, if you press it, it will be really hard, and that's because it's got lots of gum in it. And that just kind of bulks it out a bit. whereas the artist quality ones have, oops, a lot more pigment, just pigment in it, and no bulking agents. And I think that's probably the difference. It's just, you know, how much you're willing to spend on it. And also the other thing that Antoinette asks is, how do you keep the colours from spilling or splurging into the other parts of the picture? Well, that bit here I did earlier this morning, so that's dry. So once it's dry, it's not going to merge. So I'm going to do, I think what we'll do is round the little bed area. So the idea is that it's almost like a cut, like a dissection. Is that the right word? Dissection? Of land around where the badgers, they're actually underground, but if we sliced through, this is what we'd be able to see. And I'm just going to pick up a bit of yellow ochre, just yellow ochre to start with. I'm going to mix my colours on the paper, and I know many artists will say that is sacrilege. You should never do such a thing. However, I quite like doing it, so no. And that's a little bit of umber. I do want this to be quite a bright colour because the rest of it's going to be quite dark, so a little bit more burnt umber around them. So this is partly wet in wet, which means the paper is already wet, and then you put wet paint onto it. And it's partly wet in dry, which means you're putting wet paint onto dry paper. It's not all wet. But I am now going to put in some cadmium yellow, just to brighten everything up. Make it look like it's a nice, cosy, comfortable environment for them. So badgers, certainly in this country, they actually take their bedding out and they air it every week or two, I think. They drag everything out, get rid of any mites or bugs or anything like that, and then put it all back in again. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry a little bit. I can see I've missed a bit of the hillside there, but because that's still wet, if I was to paint that, it would splurge into the upper part, so I won't do that. But what I might do, let's see, that's dry, that's almost dry, that's almost dry. I was wondering about doing the tree, but no, I think so that I don't ruin the sky, I think we'll carry on down here, and actually it will merge a little bit with that yellow. So let's give it a bit, I might try sort of browny, I'll do some, I was going to do blue, but I might try browny colours actually. Let's have a look, see what it looks like. So this is wet paint, dry paper. Another thing that I think that I do, which I learnt really when I was doing my thesis on Japanese ink painting, is holding the brush really far down. So I'm not holding it there, I'm not trying to control it, I'm actually holding it quite far up. There's a little spider just there. Can you see that? Yes. The other reason why I've moved everything up from my studio today is because it was raining yesterday when I was doing my live stream. It was raining and it was very dark in my studio, so it wasn't great for lighting. And also where I've got that tin roof, I get a very lovely sound, but very loud sound when it starts to rain heavily. And I didn't really want to be drowned out. We've had some really heavy rain today. Right, so that's the hilly bit. I might just... this is what you see, it's a constant thinking process when you're painting. Okay, I'll leave that for a moment, see if there's any more people joined us or comments. Let's have a look. Oh, Chris, hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. What are you doing today? Anything exciting? I don't know what, in the rest of the world, it's very late autumn here, but we're still getting a lot of warmth. Oh, I'm going to totally spill this water in a minute. Okay, maybe I ought to put it somewhere else. I'll zoom out a bit. There we go. Don't get seasickness. So that's how it looks at the moment. I think what I might do is give the badgers a bit of treatment. Yes, let's do that. Okay, I'm going back in again. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your chairs or whatever you're nearby to so you don't get seasickness. Okay, so we need a really dark colour. For that I'm going to use some very dark brown. I think it's called Van Dyke brown, and my indigo together, and that produces quite a dark colour. I'm using wet paint, dry paper for doing their markings, and they have these black stripes. Because that yellow is still wet, I don't want to go anywhere near that. They have these black stripes that go up over their eyes and into their ears. And I was doing a little bit of research before I started, and also nose, but I don't want to go too close. I was doing a bit of research, and badges do have different looks depending on where you are. So a honey badger, for example, looks very different to a benign badger. Man, they're angry, those honey badgers, aren't they? I mean, what's their problem? What's happened to them to make them be so beastly? Then the rest of that body is going to be black, and their paws, they just have this little white bit underneath their chins. So once that yellow's dried, I will attend to that bit. Let's go back and have a look at the old sky. I think the sky is dry enough for me to be able to do something with those tree trunks. I'm going to spin it around so that I don't lean on the yellow. There we go. I'm going to work upside down for a bit. And I'm going to go back in with the Van Dyke brown again, but I'm going to mix it this time with the next brown down, which I can't remember the name of it, but it's more sort of chestnutty. Anyone got any ideas what this thing is? This little fella underneath the tree. Very carefully going up to that yellow, because again, I don't want to go over. I also really like to leave some white areas. I think the white of the paper does a job, so it's good to leave some white bits when you're doing this kind of painting. Pick up a bit more water. So where I've gone over with the blue there, I'm just going to give that a bit of a darker pigment to cover that up. You can also, once you get it wet again, you can just rub it a little bit and it will merge back in to whatever colour you're putting on top. There we go. It's coming together. I'm just going to hope that my camera battery doesn't fail, because that would be awkward, wouldn't it? Let's go to it's still working at the moment. So tell me in the comments what kind of thing, if you are an artist and you like to, or any kind of creative actually, whatever you do, what kind of things do you like to create? Are you handy with your hands, like pottery or crochet or something like that, sewing maybe? Or are you more of a wordsmith? Do you write poetry or spoken words, song lyrics? Do you write plays? I think everybody has something. I'm a firm believer that everybody is creative in some way, because that's, you know, that's part of being a human being, isn't it? It's being creative. Okay, let's hope that is dry enough. It looks like it is. So we've just had bonfire night last night. If you watched yesterday, you might have heard me talking about bonfire night. We've got the UK has taken in quite a few Ukrainian people with the Homes for Ukraine scheme, I think it's called, which the government put out at the beginning of the war. And up until fairly recently, I hadn't met anybody on the island where I live, although apparently we have taken in something like 60 families. I hadn't met anyone, but I did meet somebody. She's lovely and is actually a lawyer, but not currently working in this country. She's trying to find some work. And she was telling me how the thunder that we had a couple of weeks ago makes her very nervous because of, you know, she's very sensitive to those sorts of noises. So I was wondering how people fared last night in the UK with all of our fireworks going off, even though it was raining really heavily, which normally puts people off. I think because we haven't had bonfire night and fireworks for the last couple of years because of COVID, it still went ahead. I'd prefer it if we could just have maybe 1 or 2 nights a year where it's allowed for our animals. I think of, you know, horses and sheep and stuff in fields, how upsetting it must be for them, as well as our human beings who don't like it very much. Okay. Oops, let's have a quick look at the old. Okay, I was just reading the comments. Oh, Chris Raydog, thank you. I gave your channel a shout out a while back. Just saw you were live and wanted to say hi. Well, hello. It's really nice to have you there. Thank you for joining me. And I'm really glad that it's kind of inspirational and I'm managing to give people some tips and tricks for painting and drawing and children's books, which is a massive love of mine, as you may know. Okay, now my yellow and my brown, the yellow bit is still a bit wet and it's a bit wet here, but this side looks like it's dry. So what I'm going to do is grab some of that colour that I've used for the tree trunk, and I'm going to, let's just make sure that's not, I'm going to do these little sticks, and I'm going to hope and pray that it really is dry. Looks like it is. And I think that the leaves, you might give them an autumnal hue, and give them some of that. It's called bright red, but it's not really that bright. Reddish. Rusty, I'd call that. Rusty red. So I'll just do some of these leaves that are not near the really wet paint. I think that one's probably the last one I can do because the rest of it is wet. Okie dokie. So I'm going to do that little bit up here that I missed earlier on today. So first of all, a bit of water, not too much, and then I'm going to drop some pigment in. But I wanted it to be a bit paler at the top of the hill, so up here is paler than it is down the bottom because the moonlight is shining on it. So I don't want it to be too dark up there. That should do it. 90% of the job of an artist who is using watercolour paint is watching paint dry. You know, when you say that when you're trying to think of a boring job to do and someone says, oh, what have you been doing? Oh, watching paint dry. No, I really do watch paint dry, and I quite like it because it means that I can fiddle about with it as it's drying. There we go. So without blow drying all this with my hairdryer, I'm not sure that there's much more I can do because some of it's quite wet still, although the best way you can do it is to just turn it and see where the shiny bits are, like that. If you have shiny bits, you know it's still wet. So I think that tree trunk up the top here is probably dry enough for me to put some pigment down on the tree that's behind. I'm going to go for a oranger colour. So let's just put some water in that. There's the one that I was using. And I'm going to pick up some of that red and then a bit of cadmium yellow. It's useful to have this white down the bottom here because I can see what the colours look like. Okay, I quite like that. Let's use that. So again, I'm going to tilt my page so that I don't stick my hand on some of the wet and totally ruin it. During October, I took part in Inktober. I started to take part in Inktober. I correct myself. But I got halfway through the month and things went crazy, so I had to stop. But I was doing a lot more digital art. That's what I was focusing on because I've just upgraded my Photoshop, and I've, over the summer, bought myself a tablet for drawing with, and I thought, you know what, this is a really good opportunity to teach myself how to use it properly. So that was what was behind it. and I really enjoyed it, so I can't wait to get back to doing some. I really like sort of physical, getting your paintbrushes wet kind of painting, and I also really like manipulation with digital art. It's fun. And also the other thing about digital art is if you want to change something, the colour of something or the texture of something, it's so easy. Whereas when you're doing ink painting or watercolour painting, once you've done it, that's it. You just have to be okay with it. There we go. We're getting there. Let's just hope we don't come across a really wet bit of sky. I need to be careful because that bit there is really wet still. I'm going to give that a little bit of margin. I don't know if you can hear my paintbrush moving, but I'm sitting in a very quiet room and it sounds really loud. I hope it's not too annoying. It's nice we've got a bit of sunshine has come out, because an hour ago it was raining really heavily and the light was awful for filming and painting, but the sun has come out. Hurrah! Nearly done. Now, why did I go over the edge there? You see that top bit where I've gone over the edge? That's annoying. I'm just going to go in with my trusty bit of kitchen paper, press down, it lifts a lot of it off, and I can deal with the remnants at a later date. Okay, I'm just going to do these last little bits and then I'm going to go back to the comments. So if you've got anything you want to say or ask, I'm getting ready for it. That browner trunk is still wet, so I'm just going to be really careful I don't go in too close. Okay. That's where we are at the moment. Check out the comments. Okay, so yeah, thanks Sharon about the PTSD. It's really hard for people. Carolyn, have I ever made greeting cards? Yes, I have. I used to do greetings cards. I used to sell a lot of my artwork face to face in markets and stalls and that sort of thing. But I gave up really. I just wanted to concentrate more on YouTube and my books. So yeah, it was a tricky one to juggle. Right, so let's see. Is the yellow dry enough? I believe it is. Great, okay. It's badger time. Sounds like a kids program. Okie dokie. Now, I think, let's just check. Yeah, the black that I've put down, or the very dark brown that I've put down, has dried. So we're good to go. I'm going to do his ear. And then, actually, on a real badger, it's more grey than black. So I'm going to, on their backs, that is, their faces are very black. Just going to let the the paper do a bit of talking for me. Their paws are very dark black, but on their backs it greys up a lot, weirdly. They've got lots of different little flecks of colour. Is that dry? Yes. Also got to do his nose, or her nose, could be her. Little black button noses. So I am leaking into that yellow a bit, so I'll just get a dry bit of kitchen paper and just dab at it, just to take that off like that. So it wasn't as dry as I thought it was. Oh well. Note to self, don't go quite so close to the yellow. So all of this I'll probably go in with my pencils when it's all dry and give it a bit more definition, because with the Inktense pencils, they are watercolour pencils, so you can go in with watercolour brush when you've drawn with them, and it really intensifies the colour hugely, brings the saturation level up. You wouldn't believe it, it's like magic. They should sponsor me, I talk them up so much. If anybody knows Derwent, give them a nudge in my direction. There we go. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I'm not sponsored by anybody apart from myself. Good. Well, I think we can afford to do a little bit of colour work around those leaves around them, because even though it's still a little bit damp around there, I don't mind. I don't really mind that much if it splodges just a bit. Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze. Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze live on YouTube. That's a really bad idea. Is it when you think you're going to sneeze, you have to think of pineapples? Somebody told me that once. Think pineapple. Okay. Has it gone? Yes, it has. Weird. Maybe it's just that it takes your mind off of it. Anything would, if I said think elephants. Let's go with a bit of that. The thing I really like about watercolour is it has a bit of a life of its own. When you make a mark with the brush, it just, you never know how it's going to work out. It's not like using digital or anything else. It's not even like doing oil painting. You just don't know what's going to happen until you do it. Okay, so I think I need to do round our little fella over here. Any suggestions as to what the little guy underneath the tree is? Anyone want to make a suggestion? It could be a jellyfish. Could be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm going to do a bit of green. I've already got some green mixed up in my palette with a bit of raw umber. That's kind of greeny brown now. That's too green. Let's put a bit more raw umber in. And I think what I'll do is I'll actually put a little bit of darker brown into round where the creature is, so that it shows he's in the dark. all of that should be dark anyway because the moon is behind the trees and the trees are casting shadow. Ooh, hello. See what I mean about it doing its own thing? I think actually that was a happy accident. I'm going to use a bit of that, and I'm going to actually go back in with my big brush. Let's pull out a little bit so you can see this a bit better. I'm going to go over that ridge that's up there to show that there is a sort of mound of earth over the top of them. It also didn't go up to the edges. Dear me, what's going on? There we go. Right, before my camera completely runs out of steam, I think I will leave it there for the time being, and I'll come back to it. Let's just pull out a little bit so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to come back to that and finish it off, and then I'll load up a photograph of it onto my posts tomorrow when it's all done. There we go. Oh, I think that started off okay. I think I'm quite pleased with the way that's going. I just wanted to make some sort of autumnal, you know, fall picture, giving an idea of what it looks like in the UK this time of year. I don't really get to see, there are badgers that live just up the road from me, but I've only ever seen them once or twice. Although I believe if you stay up beyond 7 o'clock in the evening, sometimes you can see them. But you know, 7 o'clock's my bedtime, so it never happens for me. And of course this time of year as well, they're going to be underground quite a lot of the time, so another reason why I don't get to see them very much. But I still really like them. Okay, that's it for today. I am, as I say, I'll finish that off, and then I'm going to post it tomorrow. You can see what the finished article was. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to watch this back if you need to at any particular time. It's been really nice to see everybody. We've had quite a few people join us and lots of people on the chat. So thank you so much for joining in today. And well, this seems to have gone quite well. Maybe we should do a few more. I think that's quite a good idea, actually. We just have to think about what we can do next. All right, I'm going to leave you to your Sunday. Have a lovely rest of the day. Take care. Lots of love to you all. And I will see you very, very soon.